Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time on Target Morning Brief, where we invest with fighter pilot precision on a daily basis. Today, we're talking about two things. We're talking about inflation and we're talking about earnings. We have both major headlines for both this morning, and of course, they're competing for whether the inflation is going to take the market down or earnings are going to take the market higher. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Earnings, the big banks were out this morning, or at least the beginning of it, if you will, with both JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs. You'll have the rest of the banks reporting in the next couple of days. Also had Pepsi out with a fantastic number, and then Nokia also had a fantastic number out there as well. As far as inflation, though, got another CPI print that was, I think, 5.4%. Again, that's year over year, so 5.4% versus last year. But I will say, on an interesting tale from last night, from my personal experience, is we have because you see inflation kind of pop up in weird ways sometimes. Well, we went we had family movie night to go see Boss Baby 2, which was actually really pretty funny. Good clean humor if you're interested. We went out to a theater for the first time in a long time. Went to our local Flicks Brew House, which had been closed for good, but actually reopened. And instead of normally family of four, it's one of these places where you can have a drink and eat some dinner. Well, generally the four of us will go, and it costs $85, something like that. A little over 20 a person. That's about kind of what the normal. The bill was $121. I was like, what? So I actually, I look at the bills on occasion. So I checked it out, and it's $4.95 sweet tea, instead of like $2.95, or and I was looking at kind of across the board, things are higher. So that was a little bit interesting. And I know it's a challenge for folks to find good help, but the help we had was clearly new, if you will, and not so good at what they do yet, learning, that sort of thing. But it's interesting when there's 10 people in a theater and it's still a challenge to get the basics down. You could tell they're kind of struggling there. So I don't know, that kind of brought the whole, we streamed Black Widow, if I'm saying that correctly, the new Marvel one. I think it's Black Widow, right? We streamed that on Friday, for $30. Or I can take my family out for 120 to see it in the theater. I think we'll be streaming a lot more after that. But anyhow, just a little bit of inflation there locally. Thanks for asking there, Burner. Yeah, I think Irene's feeling a lot better than she was yesterday, that's for sure. So we're kind of back full up, even though I've picked up a cough today. So I think it's allergies. Hopefully it's nothing worse. But anyhow, a little bit of coughing, so I'll try not to cough your ear off this morning. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about today. Our question of the day is going to be, we'll pull up the inflation indices. You hear these talked about, the CPI-W, CPI-U. We'll pull those up and review those. Again, you don't need to be an expert in these, but you should get a quick refresher as to what they're talking about, when they're throwing these numbers around. If you're catching us on replay, thank you so much for checking us out. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you get real-time notifications when it goes live here about an hour after the market open every day, is when we get these posted up. Also, if you want to join us in the room, which you don't see, is a chat window and a Q&A window where folks can interface with me and I can answer any questions that you might have. Free trial for a week, and then it costs $25 a month if you want to join us. With that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome back, everybody. Here's the lineup card for today, Tuesday, July 13th, almost halfway through July already. Here's what we've got for our standard disclaimers, financial education presentation. Do your own due diligence for acting on anything you hear this morning. And full disclaimer information is available at ototnow.com. All right, our mission objectives: grow our money, protect our money, and live off our money. Well, the competing themes today that we're going to take a look at are, how hard do you go risk on when you're trying to grow your money, and you go risk off when you're trying to protect your money. So those are competing themes, right? And there's a couple ways you can do that. You generally do not want to make major moves in your portfolio, but you do want to adjust allocation slightly. I've been going risk off for most of the second quarter on into the third quarter of this year. That's been a little bit premature, but I do think that when things start to turn south, that things are going to come in at least 10% or so is what I expect. I'm putting the comments back in for somebody that just joined. Make sure they see the longs and shorts for the day. So there you go. And go Luckin. Luckin was up earlier, but it's kind of settled back down for right now. But all right, we've got earnings versus inflation. So we're going to look at JP Morgan. We're going to look at Goldman Sachs. We'll look at GLD, which is kind of your pure inflation hedge play. You can also use PPTY. Many of you have this. If you're with me, you have this in your portfolio already. And then, of course, we'll pull up the Luckin chart, time permitting, just to see the amazing run that it's had. It topped out at $15.70 pre-market on very light volume. So we'll see what happens once the market opens. I think it'll continue its march higher, but that's me. Hopefully that's not being too optimistic, but I think it's going to. All right, let's go over to tdameritrade.com think platform. You see 4 screens here. Here's how we'll have the day trade set up. Here's Luckin with the 15.7 high, and right now sitting at 15.50. But our short for the day will be Space SPC. Not a super great story, other than they use the take their founder into space headline to sell a bunch of stock yesterday, a secondary offering. And it's American greed story, right? It's just terrible that they would orchestrate it like that, and everybody knows it. So the stock's kind of getting hammered off of them being greedy. So we have that as a short, and then we have RSLS long. I backed out to a 20-day, so you can kind of see that it does have some potential to go long. We looked at it for a trade not too long ago. We didn't take it, but it certainly screamed higher that day. And then Nokia. And I misspoke earlier. They did not beat earnings, but they are announcing that they're going to revise their guidance. The previous guidance, they're going to revise that higher, which had led the stock to pop this morning. But overall, how are we doing in overall market? Here's again the hitting new highs basically off of day after day, just kind of marching higher in the past couple of weeks here. So really a lot of strength in the market. So any selling here, even if today's percent down, it is literally not a big deal. All part of the motion of the ocean, if you will, and reversion to the mean. Here's what we're talking about in the last 5 days, are the dark bars here. So really kind of marching higher, pretty steady until that inflation number hit this morning. That's this big red stripe you see down here, and we've kind of recovered from that, holding that area, if you will. All right, let's go over to cnbc.com and check out the futures. Refresh these for you. Here's what we've got. So things aren't ridiculously in the red, just a little bit in the red across the board. And again, inflation overshadowing strong earnings this morning. All right, in Europe, things very light. Look at that, almost zeros across the board. And mixed. Asia's in the green there. Just looking at the headline, exports beat forecasts. Okay, so good news there in Asia. A little mini, teeny tiny bounce in the 10-year. As you get an inflation number, you tend to see the 10-year bounce with it. Oil hanging around at 74. I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen to oil this summer, but so far so good. It's just hanging above the range, not going much higher. Gold and silver, again, are your options for if you're really worried about inflation, which today's number does call things into question. That is for sure. I thought it was transitory, but then again, seeing a big number this morning, as well as a couple of minor, data points through real life, it's like, maybe I have to rethink that. So we shall see. I don't think the Fed's going to raise rates or anything crazy like that, but I do think inflation may be more of a story than I've been given credit for. And Bitcoin, crypto, all that whole space continues to get hit. And we're not really talking about it that much anymore. All right, you see the Nokia story here. Excuse me. The Kramer's talking about it again. That's who knows what he's trying to draw there with his upside down hangman guy. But that's going to be one of our longs for the day. It's actually popping. It's interesting on the 1 minute chart. I'm watching him talk about it, and it's popping as he's talking about it. You see there. All right. So as far as the headlines for today, Apple, Disney, Tesla, Microsoft, all those got upgrades. Boeing got a downgrade. Looked at that earlier. Again, they negative headline. I can't remember it exactly. First Solar got a downgrade. Also, if you remember this headline over here, Elon Musk is on trial right now for, if you remember way back, this is before I had the podcast, but many of you have known me for a long time. When Tesla, I was an early Solar City investor, and it screamed higher, and then I finally got out because there was no earnings, and it wasn't even close. I mean, it was like never going to ever make any money. So instead of going bankrupt, Elon Musk used his power as the CEO of Tesla to buy the company going to zero, CEO of Solar City. And yeah, I don't know the legal ramifications of it, but I can tell you from a that doesn't feel right perspective, it was literally, and what I joked about at the time was Elon Musk literally crapping in his hand and then eating it because he's eating his own turd, because that company was going down big time. They had used all kinds of government grants and incentives and stuff to get these things on people's houses, and there was never any chance of it becoming profitable. So anyhow, so Tesla bought it and just put all that trash onto their own balance sheet, and then slowly got rid of it. So we'll find out what the courts think of that. In Elon Musk's true style, he's been kind of making a mockery of it. So we'll see how that works out for him. So far, he basically ditches responsibility for pretty much everything he does. So maybe he'll continue his streak, or one day somebody's going to catch him on something, and then it's going to be game over. But we shall see. All right, there's your 5.4% on the consumer price index. Again, we'll take a look at those afterwards as far as the exact numbers. Here's your Boeing negative headline. Again, I've trimmed a ton of Boeing. I think it's been a fantastic, like, multi-decade run. I don't know that it can continue higher. We still have some of it, but challenges with Boeing there. All right, tax credit payments. If you didn't catch that, it's kind of been out of the news, but if you have kids, instead of having to wait to file your 2021 taxes, you're going to get your tax credit checks up front. So again, another stimulus maneuver. I don't think those are going to be huge, but not as big as the stimmy checks, if you will, but still an interesting, free money into the hands of the people. All right, let's take a look at JP Morgan. They crushed earnings this morning, so one of the charts I want to take a look at. I am a buyer here of JP Morgan based on valuation. So when you look at JP Morgan, it's got a nice dividend of a couple percent. It's got, full PE and forward PE are both fine. It's profitable. You see here the, green for operating margin, profit margin. It's a bank. For all of you that like to put tens of thousands or $100,000+ and let it sit in the bank, you are basically giving a loan to the bank so they can go out and make a bunch of money and sponsor football teams and build 40-story buildings downtown and all that stuff off of your money. But I can teach you how to do that on your own and do it for you if you'd like to keep that money, but maybe you like those buildings, I don't know. But if JP Morgan obviously has the best CEO in the business and Jamie Dimon, it has the investment side as well as the retail banking side with Chase and big credit card business and all that. So overall, it's really the best pure play in my mind if you're in the banking space. Goldman Sachs also out this morning. I don't like it nearly as good, but the stock has been powering higher. You can see it's a little bit cheaper, a little lower dividend, and lower on the profit margins. But pretty good place to have money, especially if interest rates start going higher. And then the last one I want to look at is GLD. If you're thinking about hedging for inflation, not a bad time to get in, right? So it's kind of ran up with the big inflation theme we had. And then, inflation really has kind of died off in the past month and a half, or at least left the mainstream, news cycle, if you will. So not a bad entry point for going higher. So here at 169. So again, really, it's just a pure hedge. You're not really looking to make money. You're looking to kind of offset some losses in your other portfolio if the market comes in. If the market screams higher, well, gold's not going to perform all that well. So just be prepared that, it's a hedge. So it's going to act opposite what the overall market is doing. All right, let's go over to TD Ameritrade real quick and we will get set up for the open. I'll be back with you in just a second. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time On Target play of the day. You have 4 screens in front of you on the TD Ameritrade Think Pipes platform. We have a 1-minute SPY chart here on the left. You can see inflation news hit the market here, and then it's coming back higher. We have 1 long today. Excuse me, 2 longs in Nokia and RSLS. I'll zoom into a 1-minute chart here in a second, and then Space is our short that I'll talk to here in a second. Here's the opening bell. All right, this Nokia long is probably the best storyline, and you're looking at a 5-cent stop. I would really like to see it come down into the 575 range before taking it higher. I'm not really interested in stabbing at it right there. All right, RSLS is a something or other life sciences firm. I just did want you to see that it was up here at 8.5, sold off hard. We did trade it up from 375, or we watched it. I don't think we took the trade. It's settled in, but now it's going back higher. They have news of a new mobile app. Well, I don't know how valid that story is because any Yahoo can make a new mobile app. But yeah, it was gapping up earlier. It's actually not gapping up now. So we'll probably leave that story behind. And then our short is Space. So Space got greedy yesterday after putting Richard Branson in Space. They issued a whole bunch of stock. Took advantage of the news cycle there. So kind of lame as far as what they're doing. I do like it here as a short, but really only if the market rolls over, which so far it hasn't. It's powering higher. So not much going on there. So really we're down to kind of Nokia going higher, and it's not really cooperating because we would want it to come in first. All right, let's take a look at Luckin Coffee. Since I mentioned it earlier, we'll see how it opened. So open here at, it closed previously at, or it opened at 1541. It kind of went higher and settling back in there. So not a whole lot of movement going on. All right, here's your Nokia big volume just rolled in. So if you notice, there was about 600,000 shares in the first minute or so, and then now there's 3 million in the second minute. So a lot of shares here. We would need this to come back down to 575 or so before I'd go around, turn around and take it long. So it looks like we're not going to get a trade today. And unfortunately, the other names I have in my notes are kind of some small players, but we'll put them in there. DLPX, Delphax Technologies. Again, that was a long, but it's already hit to 17. It's fell 50% since it was up earlier. That's crazy. So yesterday it was up at 35, down at 17, hardly moving. Can't really get into that regardless of the headline. And NVIV, let's see what we have here. In Vivo Therapeutics up 18%. So it's out of our range, so it's less than optimal. But I don't really see a way to trade that. You see Luckin falling, that's really no big deal when you look at where it's been for the past 20 days. So yeah, it can fall in this range, really don't care. We would like to see it hold 14 though, just to kind of set a new floor as far as the stock. If it doesn't hold 14, it could hold all the way down to 12. I'd like to see it hold 12 then. But I'm a long-term investor in Luckin, so not too concerned over the daily moves. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on, zooming out to the bigger picture, long-term investing stuff. Have a couple of spec names here up top. DD bouncing a little bit. You can buy it here if you're up for the risk. Chinese names were all up this morning. So you have Alibaba, VipShop, KWeb, all of your Chinese fabs. Marijuana we haven't talked about in a while. Let me pull up the MJ chart. Was kind of left for dead. I'm going to zoom out here. So here, if you think, here was the election back in here. So kind of this huge run up to legalization and things. And then it really sold off pretty hard. And it's kind of leaked ever since. I still like the theme. I like it long term. I think you have a great entry point here. I'm actually going to make a note to buy some MJ below 20. We'll see if it holds 20 here and make a buy below that today. Neo Chinese name up, trade desk up. All right. Let's see what we have going to the downside. The meme stocks have been clobbered in the news lately, so I could see a lot of folks maybe not having the diamond hands that they thought. But AMC will pull the chart down at 40, and again, touched 77 not too long ago. But I don't know. You're going to find out who has diamond hands here at 40 because it bounced a couple times off of 40. So the Ape Nation and real ape wives and all the hashtags that are out there, the good luck. If it doesn't hold 40, I think people are going to find out that there's going to be a lot of selling, but we'll see. All right, Luckin down 3.5% now, so continue to sell off. Clover Health is another meme stock. There's Boeing we talked about earlier, downgrade -3%. GameStop meme stock. Delta Airlines, basically, if you're in any of the opening trades, hopefully you're back out by now. I think all of those are basically played out. Okay. Check back to the long side. All right. So that's it. Look back to the trading screen. Really nothing really to go off of this morning. All right. Coming back to our question of the day, and then we'll close out, is inflation and the different measures of it. I'm back on camera here. So again, this is Investopedia, Consumer Price Index. So that's what you're going to hear is CPI. But really, which one are they talking about is the thing. And then you'll hear them backing out cars and energy. Is what, well, the CPI is not so bad if you back out cars and energy. Okay, what does all that crap mean? Consumers, how much you spend. PPI is the producer version, how much it costs to produce. So you might hear PPI numbers, but generally people don't care unless you're inside, unless you're, one of the businesses that produces a product, then you care. But really it's more what CPI, what you and I are paying as consumers, that for the basket of goods and services that we normally pay for. The CPIW is a specific subset of the CPI that focuses on wages. And that is the one that is used for Social Security, for the cost of living upgrades every year. Or not every year, but they take a look at it every year. Its cost of living increases, and also for the military retirement is also pegged the CPIW. Yep, purchasing power, standard basket of selected goods. You probably know all that. It is reported monthly. Sometimes it gets a big headline, sometimes it doesn't, but it's on a regular schedule, so you can kind of count on things. Could you trade around it? Sure. If you want to become like the CPI inflation trader person, that is one thing that generally, as you saw this morning, when it comes out, it's going to move the market either way. So if you're trading, that's all you really need is motion. To be able to put a mathematical model around it, like ours, -1R + 3, set the parameters, and then wait for one of them to hit. So definitely get some motion out of the market there generally. So calculating it, it's basically an inflation rate, so nothing cosmic about that calculation. Here's the CPIW, again, the wage earners we talked about. And also, so you're saying CPIW represents 28% of a country's population. So again, those are the wage earners, if you will. CPIU is for urban consumers. 88% of the population is a better representation of the general public. However, and this has been talked about, for a while now on why this is still back on the CPIW, but it is. I don't know. If they change it, I'm sure everybody would get all excited. All right. Criticisms. Yeah, here's one that out-of-pocket medical expenses are not really reflected in these things. And of course, if you are living off Social Security, you probably are in that heart of the envelope for medical costs starting to increase on you. And it's interesting that the one thing, the one thing that's coming back to seniors is not really indexed to the increase of medical expenses. So, just something to consider. I don't know that that's ever going to change, but at least it's talked about. And if you hear it on the news, you'll know what they're talking about. All right, so that's all I've got for you today. So we'll see how the market reacts. Markets across the board just down a little bit. So not really selling off hard based off of that number from earlier. So we shall see what wins out. Earnings is kicking off this week, or the specter of inflation. It'll take a couple days for us to know for sure. With that, I'll see you guys back tomorrow.